welcome to another Partners in Crime tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to make a cinematic looking kind of slash effect in Blender. So let's take a look at what we'll be making. And now let's get to making it. So type numpad 7 on your keyboard to get started. And type Control Alt and then numpad 0 to bring your camera into the top view. And type X and click delete on the keyboard. And right click here and X and delete. And now we've deleted the cube and that lamp there. So what we're going to do is we are going to add in a Bezier circle. So Shift A, curve, circle. And this circle is going to be our slash. So let's type Shift D and move that duplicated circle over here and left click. And size it down real small by typing S and moving your cursor in. And left click to confirm that. Now we're going to right click on our circle and go into the Object Data tab. And let's type Alt C Mesh. And now let's convert it back to a curve. So Alt C Curve. And let's uncheck this here. And now you can see we've got a little disconnect going on with our circle. And that's fine. We're going to now rotate our circle. So type R and then R. And left click to confirm that rotation. So now we're going to go into the bevel object section here and click this picker. And we're going to pick the Bezier circle 001 here. So now we've used that as our bevel object. So if we adjust the start value of this, you can see, or the end value, you can see that we have our object coming up and it's looking really nice. So we got that swirl around. So let's hover your cursor over the end value, see, pull that to 0 and hover your cursor over the start and the end values, and then jump to a later frame. Let's just make sure we have this at 60 frames per second to get the smoothest animation. And go back into the material sections. Let's add in a new material and make it a shadeless material. And then let's set it to material view. Let's go back to the curve object editor tab and pull this value up a little bit. Hover your cursor over this and type. And then put this here. And hover your cursor over this and type I. And then hover your cursor over that value and type I. And then fast forward even further. And just pull all the values to 1. And hover your cursor over them and type I. So if you rewind and Alt A this through, you can see we have our animation coming in. So let's set this to AV Sync so we can see how that looks a little bit better. So now we've got a nice smooth spleen animation. What we're going to do now is we're going to right click on our bevel object and Shift D to duplicate it and left click here. To put the object there, and type SY 0.001 and enter. And let's right click on this and type Shift D to duplicate it. Right click on that again, type S and move that out, and left click. And let's delete the bevel object and make the bevel object this object here. And now you can see we've got our a flatter kind of swoosh there. So let's add in some modifiers to modify the look of our squiggly lines. So click Add Modifier and we'll use a simple deform modifier. And if you use your mouse button to pan around, and you can just kind of see how this modifier kind of makes it look a little bit more refined. And type numpad 0. You can choose to use bend, taper, stretch, but I like the look of twist better. So right click on this, type S, and move this down, and left click. And now we have a thin, really nice looking swoosh. And it's really nice. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to make a nice organic kind of squiggly swoosh that's going to kind of come around here. So let's right click on this one and Shift D to duplicate it. Right click to cancel the movement, and let's actually delete the modifier from it as well as the bevel. So X that. Let's Alt C mesh. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add a displacement modifier that's going to kind of squiggle it around. So go into the modifier section and click add modifier displace, and click new to add a new texture for this to displace to, and go into the texture tab and change it to a clouds texture. Now you see we've got some squiggling going on, but the main thing we want to do is we want to change the axis on which this is going on. So let's go back here and let's change the direction to Y and put the strength up, and that's looking pretty good. So now let's click add modifier subdivision surface, and let's put the view to 2, and that just smoothed out our lines a bit. So shift D on that and left click so that we have another line there. Use the middle mouse button to pan around, type numpad 0 to go back into camera view, and right click on this, and let's see how the Z direction looks. Alright, and then let's put the strength down to 0.6, and now we'll duplicate this one just in case we want an extra one later. So left click to put that there. Now we're going to right click on this and type Alt C to convert it back to a curve, and what we're going to do now is we're going to copy the animation back to the squiggly line object. So let's go back into the curve object data and select our bevel object as I think it was bezier circle 003. Let's right click on this to make sure. Okay, it's 002, so right click on that. Okay, so we have 002. Now you want to right click on this here and duplicate it, Shift D. Left click and move there. And we'll right click on this, hold down Shift and right click on this and type Control L, and then let's make links to the animation data. And you can see we have it squiggling around. Now one thing we can see is it kind of just draws along here. We want to kind of make it look like it's sort of blowing, and to do that we can add shape keys to this curve and Shift D and just move those duplicate objects there and left click. So right click on this, hold down Shift and right click on this. We can actually Control L and link the materials as well, and right click on here. So let's add in some shape keys. So if we click plus to add a shape key, we'll add a shape key that's the basic shape of the object. And we click plus to add another one, we'll just add in another shape key, which is what our object will morph to. So let's tab to go into edit mode, and right click on one of these sections and type O and just G, and just use your scroll wheel to just pull these around. So we're using proportional editing to just kind of displace our object. So you're just pulling around some random vertices, and type tab once you're finished, and if you adjust the value you can see we get some movement. And I want a little bit more of some hectic movement, so we're going to type tab, we're going to pull this in, right click and pull that in, pull this in, and pull that in, and left click and pull that, and just keep pulling around and left clicking, and type tab. And now if we adjust it we get a little bit more fancy. So if we right click on here, let's animate our shape key as our animation goes on. So we got that there. But if we put the value up, you can see we would adjust that. So hover your cursor over here and type I and put that here, and you can then drag the value up a little bit and hover your cursor over I, and that just made it morph to the shape key we've added a little bit. So you can see it kind of pushes in while it squiggles along. It makes it look like sort of like a particle stream. So that is a really nice looking effect. We want it to keep going until it's done squiggling. So got it there, and you can pull that down actually. Let's see, let's jump to this frame and pull it down, and then hover cursor over that and type I, and jump to about this frame and pull it all the way up, and hover your cursor over that and type I. And now we'll rewind and play this through. You can see we have a kind of organic looking spleen particle stream. So we don't want it to go at the exact same speed as the original object. So we'll split the screen here and we'll go into the dope sheet and we'll click this cursor to make sure we're only editing keyframes of the object we have selected. And what we'll do is we'll left click to get to frame 0 and we'll type S.7. And that'll just reduce the speed it takes for this one to finish, so it goes a little bit faster than our original. So let's make it start a little bit later. So GX, and just pull that out, left click, and rewind and Alt A, and we get that nice, these nice effects. So one thing you want to keep in mind is that we don't need to use all of these at once. So let's right click on this one here and just move it out here and left click, Shift D, and let's just right click on this one and Shift D to duplicate it as well, and right click, and let's change around the curves, the shape key a little bit so that it looks different than the first one. So let's right click here and just pull this line up and just pull that and out there, and just keep pulling around, making sure that it looks different. And now we've got some different lines drawn here. So let's say we want to add text to our scene. Well, let's do it, and Shift A, text, and tab erase the text, and we'll type element and type tab to exit text edit mode. And now we're gonna open a font on our computer, so let's click this here. We'll include a link to the font in the description. And let me think, let's see, we'll use Conthrax for this tutorial, and we'll double click on that, and we'll include a link to this in the description. Let's just center this on the screen and move this down here, and let's click the material section and add a new material, make it a shadeless material, and numpad 0. And let's make our background for our scene black. And type in and click display and check only render. And Shift A, mesh plane. Type S and move that up. And left click and GZ and move it back. Left click again. And S and left click. And we can go into the material section and add a new material. Let's make it emit by 1. And let's make it dark. And let's make it reddish. Let's type Shift A in the lamp. And we're just making a scene that's going to have a nice sort of light at the bottom of our camera. So let's add in the sun. And we're going to change the sun's color to a reddish color. And we're going to change the strength to 0.1. And we're going to type R twice. And left click. And now we've got a little bit of a gradient of light at the bottom of our scene. And that's going to be really nice for the cinematic sort of theme we're going for. So let's type numpad 0. So if we rendered this now, we would have this scene here as it looks right now. What we want to do is we want to make it so that our swoosh is properly masked. So what we're going to do is to be able to give our elements different colors, we're going to change their pass indexes here. So in the material section, you want to make sure you're in the material section. You'll have the options section, and you'll want to change the pass index to any number you choose. Now for this tutorial we'll go with 5 for this. G and move that, and right click on this, and now we'll have to make this its own material. So scroll up and click this plus here, and let's make the pass index 6. And now we have our index set up there. We'll go into the render layer setting and click this passes here, and we will check material index. And now we'll also check, let's see, emit, and we will render our scene out and add some glow in the compositor. So render image. We have it rendered, and we're going to jump into a compositor and check use nodes and backdrop and click add output and then viewer, and put this up here and put this into the viewer there and click add color mix, hook it up there and put the material index here. So you can see it's kind of masked out our squiggle elements, and let's set this to add, so it just adds that back. And let's click add converter ID mask and hook it up to the material index. And we chose 5 and 6 as our numbers. Alright, so add filter glare and put this here. Fog glow and put the threshold down and change it to high. We're going to duplicate it over again, so shift D, put that there, and let's click add color RGB curves, put that there, and put the red value up and the blue value down because we want some red up in here. So put that in the compositor and just wait to see how our scene should look. So we're going to lower the green level so that we don't get such an orangish red, and heighten the red levels even more. Alright, so we're getting a very nice looking effect here. One thing we can do is we can add some blur to it to improve some quality here. We're going to left click here, shift D, and add another blur node and see if that improves it a little bit. I'm using my mouse button to pan around. Alright, so you can see we've got our red glow. Now let's add in our blue glow. So left click on here and type shift D, and left click here and type A so that we don't have that selected, and then type B. Left click and drag over all these nodes, release it, and shift D. And now put this down here. Let's output the index material into this one. Except let's now set this one to the value of 6, which is our second pass index value that we have set for a separate object already. And put this here. And lower the red values, heighten the blue values. We should get a nice blue added into our scene that should show up in the compositor in a moment. So we got that blue mixing in with that purple, and it's making a very nice effect with our scene. So put that up in there to the composite node. And we have a very nice scene here. If you want to improve the quality of the red part of the scene, you can add a filter, blur filter, and just put this up here and change it to fast Gaussian. And you can put the value to 3 and 3. And you should see if it kind of clears up our scene. Kind of improves the quality of this one right here. So let's see if it helps with these anti-aliasing issues, and it kind of does, and it looks pretty neat. So we have finished creating this animation pretty much. If you want to render it out to a video, we'll have a link to the tutorial on how to do that in the description, and we'll just set the settings real quick here with MPEG 4, change your bitrate to 14,000 at least. If you want audio, just hit MP3 if you have anything loaded in. Choose an output folder on your computer. Element, accept, and save your file up here, and make sure the resolution gets to 100%, and then you would click render animation. So we're done with this tutorial. We hope you found it helpful, and check out our site and our blog for more tutorials like it. Leave a comment below if you have any questions or just want to express your comments on the tutorial. Leave a like, share the video, and if you want more, subscribe for more tutorials from partners in coordinated rendering of ideas, motion, and effects.